Imagine committing a crime so utterly repulsive that your neighbors don't just disown you. They legally petition the government to erase the very name of your town from the map. In 1850s England, the citizens of Rugeley were so desperate to escape the shadow of a local monster that they begged the Prime Minister for a new identity. The Prime Minister agreed, but with a catch. He offered a replacement name that contained a darkly brilliant psychological trap, one that forced the town to keep its original name forever. But this isn't just a story about a clever political prank. It's a glimpse into a terrifying historical crisis where a killer was so universally loathed, the British Parliament had to rewrite the rules of the justice system just to ensure a mass murderer received a fair trial. To the outside world, Rugeley was a postcard-perfect market town in Staffordshire, England. It was quiet, respectable, and deeply traditional. And at the center of its social fabric was Dr. William Palmer. Palmer was a medical practitioner, a man dedicated to healing the sick. He was charming, wealthy, and universally trusted. But behind a respectable facade lay a chaotic, hidden life. Palmer was a compulsive gambler, heavily addicted to the high-stakes world of horse racing. By 1855, his addiction had driven him into a corner. He owed astronomical sums to ruthless loan sharks, and the interest was compounding daily. Desperate men do desperate things, but Dr. Palmer had a medical degree, a steady hand, and access to things ordinary men could never obtain. He realized he didn't need to win at the racetrack to pay his debts. He just needed the people around him to start dying. The opportunity Palmer was waiting for arrived in November 1855 at the Shrewsbury races. A wealthy young friend of his, John Parsons Cook, won a massive fortune on a horse named Polestar. Cook celebrated his windfall by drinking with Palmer that evening. Within hours, Cook fell violently ill. Palmer volunteered to treat his friend, step by step controlling his medicine and food. But instead of recovering, Cook's condition deteriorated into agonizing convulsions. His body violently arched upward, a classic medical symptom of a highly lethal neurotoxin. Cook died in terror, and before his body was even cold, Palmer was seen aggressively trying to collect his deceased friend's racetrack winnings. It was a clumsy, desperate move. Cook's stepfather immediately suspected foul play and demanded a post-mortem examination. What the investigators found next didn't just point to the murder of John Parsons Cook. It unraveled a horrifying pattern that suggested the trusted local doctor was actually a prolific apex predator. The investigation quickly turned into a dig into Dr. Palmer's past, and what the authorities uncovered horrified the entire country. As detectives looked closer at the doctor's financial history, they realized that a staggering number of people close to him had met sudden, agonizing deaths, usually right after Palmer took out a massive life insurance policy on them or inherited their money. First was his wife, Annie Palmer, who died shortly after he insured her life for £13,000. Then came his brother, Walter, whose death conveniently cleared another massive debt. Next were 4 of his own infant children, all dying suddenly of convulsions. Even Palmer's mother-in-law and a gentleman to whom he owed money had collapsed and died while staying under his roof. The press quickly labeled him the Rugeley poisoner, and the town found itself at the absolute center of Victorian England's most sensationalized murder scandal. The hysteria in Rugeley reached a fever pitch. For the residents, the situation was no longer just about the horror of the murders. It was about the destruction of their community. Virtually overnight, the name Rugeley became a national punchline and a badge of shame. Merchants found that outsiders refused to buy goods shipped from town. Travelers avoided local inns, and residents who left the area were mocked and treated with suspicion. The town's economy was cratering under the weight of the stigma. Desperate to shield themselves from financial ruin and social exile, the town's prominent citizens drafted a formal legal petition. They sent it directly to the highest authority in the land, Prime Minister Lord Palmerston. The request was simple. They begged for royal permission to legally strip the name Rugeley from the map and choose a new identity entirely, cutting ties with the poisoner's legacy forever. But as the town struggled with its branding crisis, the legal system was facing a much more dangerous dilemma. The public hatred for Dr. Palmer was so intense and the media coverage so venomous that a legal fair trial had become a statistical impossibility. Under English law at the time, a criminal had to be tried by a jury of their peers in the county where the crime occurred. But in Staffordshire, every single potential juror had already convicted Palmer in their minds. The local population didn't want a trial. They wanted a public execution. This created a massive constitutional crisis. If the courts allowed a biased, furious jury to convict Palmer, it would set a terrifying precedent. That public outrage could override due process. The law faced a choice. It could let the system twist its own rules to quickly hang a notorious monster, or it could step in to protect the rights of a serial killer in order to save the integrity of British justice. To solve this crisis, the British government had to do something unprecedented. They realized that the existing framework of the law was completely unequipped to handle a modern media circus. In early 1856, Parliament intervened and passed a brand new emergency piece of legislation, the Central Criminal Court Act. It quickly became known across the country as the Palmer Act. This law allowed the court to bypass traditional geography entirely, stripping the trial away from the furious local community and moving it to the Old Bailey in London. The system openly acknowledged a profound truth. The law had to actively shield its worst citizen from a vengeful public. If a mass murderer was denied a fair, impartial trial, then the rights of every single innocent citizen would eventually be in jeopardy too. By changing the law to protect Palmer's right to due process, the court ensured that his ultimate conviction would be legally airtight. The trial in London lasted 12 days, captivating the entire nation. Science and medicine took center stage, with experts debating the precise effects of strychnine on the human body. Ultimately, the jury found Dr. William Palmer guilty. On June 14, 1856, roughly 30,000 people gathered in the pouring rain outside Stafford jail to watch the Prince of Poisoners hang. But back in Rugeley, the townspeople were still waiting for a response to their petition. They wanted their clean slate. Prime Minister Lord Palmerston finally delivered his answer. He declared that he would happily grant their request to legally rename the borough, but only on one strict condition. Following the tradition of naming towns after great leaders, like Lord Melbourne and the city of Melbourne, the Prime Minister insisted that Rugeley must be renamed in his honor. It sounded like a generous political gift, until the townspeople did the math. The Prime Minister's name was Lord Palmerston. If they accepted his offer, the town's new name would literally translate to Palmer's Town. The townspeople realized they had been completely outsmarted. In their desperate attempt to escape the name of a killer, they were nearly tricked into adopting a name that would permanently celebrate it. The ultimate irony of the Prime Minister's jest was that it worked flawlessly. Realizing that the legal loophole of adopting the name Palmerston would bind them to their tormentor forever, the citizens of Rugeley quietly withdrew their petition. They chose to face the world under their own name. Gambling that time would eventually wash away the stain of the doctor's crimes. Today, the case of William Palmer is remembered not just for the lives he brutally took, but for how the legal system responded to the chaos he left behind. The Palmer Act remains a landmark moment in British legal history, a stark reminder that true justice cannot exist if it bends to the fury of the crowd. Rugeley kept its name, proving that while you can try to rewrite the law, you can never truly run away from history.